I am now in a healthy, loving relationship. And today I'm going to talk about the 7 things that I stopped doing that helped me find real love after toxic relationships. Your love life will get so much better if you stop doing these things. The last one, it's a bit controversial, but I stand by it. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Lindsay and I am the Real Love Alchemist. I help you go from bad relationships to real love with the magic of subconscious work. Now, if you're asking yourself, what the heck is subconscious work? Click on the link in the description to learn all about it. So let's get into it. I've got my notes here. This was actually an Instagram post that you guys loved. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, you can follow me at the Real Love Alchemist. So, first thing I stopped doing to find real love was I stopped lowering my standards to fit the actions of the person I was dating. What does this mean? So if someone I was talking to didn't call when they said they would, or they just didn't do something in general that they said they would, I stopped trying to be okay with it. So old me in the past would have been like, oh, well, yeah, I guess they were just busy, or maybe they had something come up, or like, oh yeah, we've only been talking for a little while. I shouldn't expect this person to do what they say they were going to do. I stopped doing all that. And I got really clear on my expectation. And my expectation was that if I was dating someone and they said they were going to call me, that they would call me. They would do what they said they would. So once I saw that somebody wasn't doing that, I stopped lowering my expectations and I said to them, you know what? We are not a good fit. This is not what I'm looking for. We're not compatible, whatever the case was that I said at the time. I stopped pretending that I was cool with it, that I was okay with these things that were happening. And I instead saw it as a fundamental incompatibility. Like if these things were happening, if somebody was not doing what they said they would, or just generally not making me feel good, I stopped trying to make it okay. And I said, this is not going to work. This person is not for me. We are not compatible if this is the way they're acting. So when I did that, it left room for people who I was compatible with, who did show up and do the things that they said they were going to do, who did meet my expectations for a partner. And I'm not talking about really extravagant expectations. This is just like really, really basic stuff. Basic expectations of good communication, somebody who's consistent and kind, that kind of thing. This ties into the second thing I stopped doing, which is trying to have no needs. Now, if you are somebody who considers themselves to be an empath or more sensitive, you probably get this. So in the past, I would, again, try to lower my expectations based on the relationship I was in. And if somebody really wasn't meeting my needs or wasn't trying to meet my needs, I would try, instead of leaving that relationship or speak up, I would just try to not have those needs. Now, when I got a little bit older, I did speak up, but I would unfortunately still stay in those situations where I was sharing my needs and the person was making no attempts to accommodate them. So I thought the solution was, I just have to stop being so needy. Have you ever been in that place? Has somebody even called you needy? And so you tried to not have basic relationship needs. So if you've been there, you probably know how hard it is to do that because it's not healthy. It's not the direction we need to go in to find healthy love, healthy relationships. The direction we need to go in is actually to have needs, to share them, to express them, and when someone doesn't meet them, you leave. Again, you realize that it's a fundamental incompatibility. So I was in that place for a while of trying to have no needs. And let me tell you, you will find people who will love that, who will love the fact that you're pretending like you don't need anything and you're just the cool girl. Guess who likes that? People who are emotionally unavailable, who have no interest in meeting your needs, or people who are more narcissistic and abusive, who also have no interest in meeting your needs. Those are the types of people who are going to feel really, really great being in your world. So that's what I was getting. I was getting into relationships with people who were unavailable or narcissistic and abusive. But when I stopped doing that, when I stopped trying to pretend that I did not actually have needs and I spoke up about them and I shared them with the people I was dating, it became real clear, real quick, who was going to be a good match for me. And the people who weren't, they didn't like my boundaries, they didn't like my needs, they didn't like my expectations, and they left. And that made room for people who were totally cool with them and actually wanted me to have limits and boundaries and needs. Because that's the thing that I didn't realize earlier in my life. Healthy, loving partners, they want you to have needs. They want you to have limits and boundaries because they want to meet them. Loving partners who care about you want to meet your needs to the best of their ability. Now, of course, within reason here, but they want to make you happy. And so they do want you to have needs. And so, man, it took me a while to learn that, but once I did, that made such a big difference in my dating life. I was able to see who would be truly compatible with me based on me speaking up about things that I needed and things that I wasn't okay with. Number 3 thing I stopped doing after toxic relationships that got me real love was I stopped rushing into relationships. This was so hard for me as someone who used to consider herself anxiously attached. I now know that my attachment is more of a fearful avoidant, a disorganized attachment. Truthfully, I consider myself an earned secure at this point. But back when I was dating, that was my attachment style. I totally leaned anxious for a while, and I would rush into relationships quickly. I would find somebody, it seemed like it was a good connection, and I would be ready to be official like pretty quickly. But I learned eventually that when you're looking for healthy love, when you're dating for real love, that's actually not the smart way to go. Real love develops slowly. It's not like that toxic intensity of infatuation that you get in the beginning of an unhealthy relationship. If you're watching this video, you probably know what I'm talking about. You've met someone and you get that instant hit of chemistry and excitement and infatuation and physical attraction. And it's like, oh, it's like so heady, right? And I mistook that for real love. And so when I felt that, I was like, great, I found a good person. This is it. Let's move forward. Real love is not like that. It develops much more slowly. It's less intense, and it takes time. It takes time for you to get to know someone. It takes time to know whether they are a person you can trust. It takes time to see how they feel about you, to see if you really are a good match. And so once I stopped rushing in and really pulled back and let myself take my time to figure out if this person was right for me, then I was able to find real healthy love. Because if you slow down and you take your time, that gives you plenty of time to see all the red flags or all the things that maybe might be deal breakers for you, versus when you're rushing in, when you're having physical intimacy right away, it's easy to miss that stuff. And then as I was dating this person in my healthy relationship now, I gave myself plenty of time over months and years to see, are we truly compatible? You know, it took us a while to start even talking about whether we want to get married or not. I gave myself so much time to really see who this person was rather than rush in quickly and regret it down the road. Okay, number 4 thing I stopped doing that got me real love was I stopped leaving my self-worth in my date's hands. So let me tell you how it used to look like. What it used to look like when I was younger was the only thing that I cared about on that date was whether or not that person liked me or not. I had already decided in my head, okay, I like this person, and now I just have to get them to like me. And if they didn't, or they just realized that we weren't compatible, oh my gosh, that was such an ego hit for me. I took it so hard. And that was not a smart way to date because it left no room for me to be evaluating the other person, to see whether I actually really liked this person, and not just the fantasy of this person that I had in my head, which was where I was at before, but based on how they were treating me, how they showed up to the date, how we got along. Looking at that and then asking myself, does this person like me? So that was the switch I had to make. Instead of trying to get somebody to like me, I showed up to dates assuming that they liked me enough to go on the date. And I didn't have to impress them or do something to get them to like me. My job was to figure out if I liked them and to also think about how I felt on this date. So did I feel like we had a good connection? Did I feel safe? Did I feel like this person genuinely cared about me and my life and was asking me questions? Did I feel like I had a good time? Like, was there an element of fun to the date? Did I enjoy myself? So it was more of a switch from getting this person to like me so that I could feel good about myself to, do I like them and how do I feel with this person? Now you might be asking, well, how did you even get to that point? How were you able to make that leap from only caring about whether that other person liked you to not really caring at all and just evaluating whether I liked them? This was with subconscious work. So back when I was doing that other way of dating, trying to get people to like me, my self-love was quite low. My self-worth was very low. And so I did a ton of subconscious work to get to the point where I could walk into a date feeling relatively good about myself and eventually feeling really great about myself. So if you know that you have some issues with loving yourself, if you don't feel like you're worthy of love, if you don't feel very good about yourself, this is what I can help you with. Click on the link in the description to learn more about the work that I do. The fifth thing I stopped doing after toxic relationships that got me real love was I stopped valuing charm and charisma. Because man, was I really taken in the past by someone's charm and charisma. I got into some bad relationships because I was so enamored with that. Like I put people that had that quality so high on a pedestal. And it got me into some narcissistic and abusive relationships. There was a lot of work that I still had to do within myself to cultivate my own charm and charisma. And before I realized that, the reason I was valuing that so much in a partner was because it felt like I didn't have access to that within myself. And so when I saw somebody that had that quality, it was like, ooh, I want that. But really, it was a lack of it within myself. Now, we all have those qualities. We all have every single quality within us. And it's just up to us whether we want to cultivate those qualities or not, or let ourselves embody them. And so I really valued that because also it's fun to be around someone who's like that. You know, someone who has a lot of charm and charisma. You feel really good around them. But what I realized is when I was only looking at that aspect of someone, only valuing that part of who they were, I missed a lot of the other stuff. There were usually a lot of red flags along with that charm and charisma. Like generally people who have those qualities, I shouldn't even say generally, but quite often they do tend to be more narcissistic leaning. And so when I was only looking at that, that was what I got. And another reason why I stopped valuing that is because I did a lot of research on what actually makes a good, happy, healthy relationship. And I realized that charm and charisma actually have nothing to do with how happy you're going to be in a relationship. It takes so much more than that, and very different skills than just somebody who can be fun and engaging at a party. You need empathy. You need somebody who's willing to work with you, to grow with you. There's so much more. That's a topic for another video. I might link to that at the end of the video here. But charm and charisma, no correlation in the relationship research to how happy you're actually going to be. So I let it go. And it's not to say that my partner doesn't have that. He totally can be charming and he has some charisma. But it's just one of the many qualities that I like about him. It's not like the thing that I've put on a pedestal and that was the only thing that I'm looking for. The sixth thing that I stopped doing after toxic relationships that got me real love was I stopped making myself overly available. So what do I mean by this? In the past, when I was dating, if a person that I liked asked me out on a date and I had something else going on, I would cancel that thing that I had already planned to go on the date with that person. because I just wanted to. I just couldn't wait to hang out with that person. I just wanted to see them. I wanted to experience all the feels. So what I was really doing when I was canceling my other plans was I was making dating the number one priority in my life. And some people might say, well, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem with that was when dating was like the most important thing, even the only thing at times, it made it so much harder to see objectively what was happening in the relationship, and it made it easier for me to miss big red flags. So what I did this time is I didn't cancel my plans when somebody asked me to do something. I kept them because they were important things to me. Maybe it was hanging out with family, spending time with friends, and it made it so that dating was not my whole entire world. I still was able to maintain my support system, and that made it easier for me to see who was truly good for me and who wasn't. I felt like with my support system in place, with still going about my everyday life, I was more centered, I was more grounded, and it made it easier to see the not so great partners and easier to see the good ones when they were in my life. All right, the number 7 thing that I stopped doing after toxic relationships that got me real love, this is the controversial one, but hear me out on this one. I stopped looking for the spark. Now, when I say this, I know that some people are going to be a little bit upset by this because we as a society, we are really attached to that spark. We really look for that feeling. We want all those feels. We want that excitement. We want to be feeling that sparkiness with someone. But for me, I realized that the spark, all of those feelings that you get when you meet somebody in the beginning right away, that stuff was actually correlated with somebody who was not good for me versus what a lot of us think it means, which is that they're the one. So I had a lot of sparks in my toxic relationships, a lot. And when I would meet healthier partners, I didn't feel as many sparks. And after having that happen over and over again, I realized, you know what? I can't go by these random sparky feelings to guide me to a healthy relationship. I realized I've got to look for something else because I've been following this spark and I've just been getting hurt. I've been getting hurt and I've been abandoned, betrayed. I can't follow this. It's just, I tried, but it's not working for me. So like as good of a feeling those sparks created within me, it wasn't getting me the results that I was looking for. So I also realized that doing, again, a lot of research on what makes relationships last, what makes relationships healthy, the relationship research does not show any correlation between sparks and a healthy, satisfying, long-term relationship. It's so many other things. And like I will share a link to a video where I'm talking about what those things actually are that you need to have a healthy relationship. Sparks are not one of them. And I know that when I say this, some people will say, but you have to be attracted. And I say yes to that. Yes, you do have to have attraction. I am not equating spark with attraction. By spark, I mean just that like instant chemistry, excitement, infatuation, oftentimes anxiety, that little cocktail that happens when you meet someone. I do not mean attraction. Yes, you still want to have attraction to your partner, but I think that you can have plenty of attraction without necessarily having a ton of those sparky feelings. And I say this because that's what I experience now. I have a little bit of a spark with my partner. Like that's there. We do have chemistry, but it's not like the sparks that I used to feel in toxic relationships, in relationships that weren't healthy for me. Because I eventually realized that what a lot of that spark was, it was some good feelings, it was some excitement, it was some infatuation, but it was also a mix of anxiety and the triggering of my old wounds. Like this person came in and it was like the perfect cocktail of triggers for my subconscious that felt like, oh, this person is the one. So if you're concerned about dating and not looking for the spark and not having physical attraction, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about putting away the spark as the thing to look for and looking for other things. Of course, look for attraction. You want to have some attraction. Look for somebody who seems to have empathy. Look for somebody who is emotionally mature, who can talk about their feelings. Again, I'll share some more info on this. There's so many other things to look for besides the spark. So if you want to learn more about what you want to look for in a partner that does indicate this will be a good, healthy, loving relationship, check out this video here.